All right, guys, Conservative Confucius back at it again. We're going to be covering who is funding our top universities and schools all over the country. Our number one funder, you might not have guessed it, Qatar, where the leaders of Hamas have their headquarters, where some of the biggest terrorist organizations find home and peace. And yes, they are the biggest donors of universities in this country, of Ivy Leagues, of top universities all over this country. They're the number one people that donate. According to recent documents uncovered, it turns out around $13 billion have been donated by Qatar and people living in Qatar. We don't really know exactly who. Most likely, it seems, though, that it's been traced back to the people who run Hamas along with other parties around them, which is just insane. Alrighty, let's get into it.
Pro-Palestinian march, right? I'm not accusing you of anything, but I'm worried about the reaction to it. You've been escorted out of this area so you can go about your business, go where you like freely, or if you choose to remain here, because you are for the reach of these people and these other people, you will be arrested.
Wow.
And we discussed this with you.
What?
Because your
Crazy.
is antagonising a large group of people that we can't deal with all of them if they attack you or if they because your presence.
So this young man can't even sit on the side of a protest and just voice support or have a visual support for Israel or being just a Jew, period. Just having anything Jewish on. And that's it. Like, he's not allowed to wear a kippah, a yarmulke, to people who don't really know is more commonly called. But he's not allowed to wear a kippah. He's not allowed to wear anything visually saying he's a Jew because these people will most likely attack him, according to the police, and they will. It is true. And yet, instead of arresting the people who attack him, they say, no, you're a danger to not only yourself, but to the people who might attack you. I'm sorry. I thought the point of law and order was to police the people who attack people, not police the people who might be attacked. Like, you're going to get arrested because you might be the victim of a crime? Are you kidding me? That's insane. And that's when you know that your government, your country, has not only started supporting the radical people in it, but they have left behind the everyday citizen. They no longer care about you. And that is dangerous and evil and should be called out by all the people who call themselves politicians in England, especially. Wow.
Watching your movie. That's right.
Wow.
That's right. We're all going to watch your movie and record you.
Wow.
Wait. No, the police ain't going to help you in this scenario.
You are quite openly.
Yeah, so that's insane. So the guy doesn't have any flags. He doesn't have anything. He's just wearing a suit with a kippah. That's it. And they're now following him around, telling him they're going to follow him around. They're going to harass him. They're going to hurt him. And the police aren't going to do anything about it. Are you kidding me? That is insane. There should be no excuse for this type of behavior. And people say, oh, you don't support that? That's free speech. It's not free speech. Calling for violence is not free speech. Harassing someone is not free speech. Saying, death to your country. I don't think that's, not your country, but foreign aliens, basically, because these people who are screaming most of this are either indoctrinated liberal students or people who come from other countries and have lived here gracefully by our own grace and are now in our institutions. And they're the ones saying, Maragbar America, which is death to America. And it's what ISIS used to yell. It's what the Taliban used to yell. It's what Al-Qaeda used to yell. It's the same thing. And I'm not kidding. You can watch videos of them screaming Maragbar America over and over again. And yet somehow it's allowed for college students to sit here and say the same thing and no one bats an eye. Oh, it's just free speech. Why are you arresting them? Okay, number one, they're trespassing. Number two, they're being violent. Number three, students fear for their safety. Number four, they've violated multiple college rules on behavior, and yet they're still allowed to do this crap. Are you kidding me? Someone needs to sit there and be like, nah, this ain't going down anymore, man. Young Jewish man, he's a music artist and a comedian. He goes to Colombia to see how people would react, and he's like, hey, I'm just Jewish. He's not saying I'm for Israel or anything. He's like, I'm Israeli, but I'm just here to help and talk and peace and blah, blah, blah.
But it's not working.
I'm beginning a coexistence.
So he's here to start he's trying to start a coexistence group, like, you know, where all the people of different groups come together and find common ground and peace.
And what's wrong with being Israeli?
Disgusting.
I'm not. I'm interviewing with people. Are you Palestinian too? You're not. Well, I thought because we would have to work together. Israelis
I don't want to work
and
together.
Palestinians.
No,
Not you.
and you have the nerve to support Israel.
What?
Get the hell out of here.
What? I mean,
Get
I
out of
support
here.
Palestine. Why?
Get the hell out of here.
But why?
You're disgusting.
But what's your name, dude? Come on.
Get out of here, you science pig. Go.
Yeah, and this is how the Jewish kids are treated all over New York and all over liberal cities just because they wear a Star of David. That guy didn't have anything. He didn't have an Israeli flag on. He didn't have anything on other than a Star of David on his necklace, on one of his necklaces. A Bring Them Home necklace, which is like for the hostages, doesn't have an Israeli flag on it. No. And then he was wearing a shirt that just had like 2 or 3 stars of David running out on the side, which is not Israel. That's just Judaism. You know, and that symbol even is older than Judaism. That symbol was adopted by Judaism, and I think in the 12th century. Some say it goes back to almost the 3rd century, but we don't really know. There's been some recent archaeological discoveries in the last 2 years that say it may go back to the 2nd and 3rd century. But that symbol was widely adopted, you could say, widely adopted in the 13th century across the Middle East and in Europe. Yet, like, people act like that symbol is inherently connected to Israel. It's, you know, after Israel was conquered by the Romans and later the Byzantines and everyone afterwards, that symbol didn't come about, mass opinion at least, and we don't know until the archaeological discoveries are verified and 100% cleared. But if they aren't, that means it didn't come about until, you know, what? Like 1300. So that's like roughly 1150 years. So why are we acting like this symbol means that you automatically support Israel? They just hate Jews. They want an excuse to hate Jews, anything Jewish people in Judaism. So they say, "Oh, I see a Star of David. You're an Israeli. You're an Israel supporter." And it's like, wait, like, so someone who's Jewish can't even wear a Star of David anymore, or else they're an Israel supporter. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? All right, let's get back into it.
Ah, but okay. I'm here. I'm Israeli. I love Palestinian people, so I'm interested.
Yeah. So that woman just said, "I want to deck you in the face." Are you kidding me? You can't just walk around to people and tell them you're going to punch them in the face just because they are Jewish wearing a Star of David. That's it. He's not walking around with an Israeli flag. He's not walking around with a sign that says anything against their cause. He's just peacefully asking them, "Hey, can I start a coexistence group with you? I'm Israeli, you know, and I'm trying to start a coexistence group." You know, he's not saying I support Israel's, you know, whatever they think is going on, even though that what they think is going on is not actually going on. He's not bringing that into the conversation. He's not starting at like, "I disagree with you," or "I hate you," or "what you think is wrong." He's starting from the most peaceful position you can. "I just want to come together." That's it. And they're like, "You, no, screw you. I'm going to punch you in the face." Are you kidding me? What kind of people are these? Is this the kind of people that say they support, you know, peaceful resolution and all this crap? Bullshit. They want to be just as violent as they think the Israelis are being. They think the Israelis are committing all these crimes. They want to do those things to the Israelis. They want to do those things to the Jews. And they know it. They're just unwilling to say it on a big platform. And that's why when you have these little videos, you see them being inherently violent and racist towards Jews.
What do you think of the Israeli state?
The Israeli state. Well, I'm Israeli, so I guess I'm from there. So
But do you support the existence of
Wow,
Israel?
existence.
yeah. Well, I like to exist. So
Wow.
Welcome to Columbia University.
there you go. I'm trying to find people.
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane. This should not be allowed on school grounds. I don't care. Like, that's my people say, "Oh, you don't support free speech." No, I am a free speech absolutist when it comes to the actual conditions of freedom of speech. I don't support calls for violence. That's not any that calls for genocide, calls for eradication of a people. I don't call for that's against free speech. Like, you know, someone can yell, "Jews will not replace us," with tiki. I don't care. That's free speech. But if you're going to say Jews must die, or, you know, whatever, that's done. You don't get to say that. That's violation of free speech, buddy. That's not how it works. And the people who support this crap, the people who are putting these protests into action and organizing them, they're the ones giving all the. How do you think there is stands at every one of these protests that have the same posters, all done up, all completed? These organizations have funding from Qatar, from Hamas. It's well known. Steven Crowder did a whole episode on this, guys. It's been known for a while, and now the news is even admitting it now. Sorry about that. Stupid little YouTube thing. But yeah, so we got, I mean, this is something that's been going on for a while. I mean,
anti-Semitism says the police demonstrated the very prejudice he campaigns against.
You are quite openly
this is the guy from earlier.
the pro-Palestinian march. I'm not accusing you of anything, but I'm worried about the reaction to your presence.
Exactly.
The Metropolitan Police has
So
apologised twice.
his presence is a problem. His presence at the protest is such an issue that they need to push him away and tell him he must leave or he'll be arrested. So instead of just saying, "Hey man, we'll protect you," that's our job. They're like, no, we have to arrest you. That's funny because when other groups go out, they get protected. When small groups who need to have police protection want to go out and voice their support, they get police protection. And yet this massive group who needs no police protection and should be there policing them, not the people outside of their protest, is now policing and protecting the violent people who hate Jews. What's going on? I mean, England is already gone. I mean, they're like so massively corrupt. Their government is insane. They're a police state when it comes to free speech. Literally, their entire country is like over Islamicized anyways. I mean, it's insane. The Islamification of Britain is basically complete.
Suggesting his race was a provocation. The use of the term openly Jewish by one of our officers is hugely regrettable. We know it will have caused offence to many, it said. Being Jewish is not a provocation. Jewish Londoners must be able to feel safe in this city.
Wow.
The Home Secretary and the Mayor of London have expressed concern about the incident amid claims that indulgent policing has made the capital hostile for British Jews. In central London, the two sides met across the barriers.
I'm not going to get into an argument over it.
Well, we are having an argument by definition because you disagree with what I'm saying.
We're having a conversation.
It doesn't feel very constructive.
Okay, but there's,
You understand why I'm
over each other.
The police playing diplomat between irreconcilable views.
I think Jewish people who identify with Israel would feel threatened because of their identification with Israel. They would not feel threatened because they're Jewish.
Do you feel intimidated as a Jewish person?
Absolutely. I would never walk around with a Magen David. My old University
Magen
College
David's
London, they
Star
have
of David.
sit-ins. I mean, the unbelievable hatred.
But you're here today.
I'm here today because I feel safe.
Yeah, so
Pro-Palestinian.
she's to the point where she can't even wear just a Star of David, maybe even like under her shirt. I mean, I've heard from multiple people, they feel scared just to wear like a Star of David like in their shirt because a lot of girls' shirts are a little more low cut. And if that star comes out, then they can be hurt. And there was actually a girl in, was it downtown West London or East London? I think it was East London. And she was just walking home and she was walking home and her Star of David had been outside of her shirt for a while and she didn't notice, and a guy was walking towards her, saw it, and beat the crap out of this woman, and ended up just like, and the story was just, woman beaten by random person. That was it. And it was like a day of coverage. That's all she got. And she was in the hospital for like 3 days. Yet no one gave a crap. No one asked her why it happened. And finally she went online and told her story. And she was like, no, you just came up to me and screamed, kike at me and all kinds of other stuff, and then just attacked me. And yeah, I was like, that's insane. That's not okay.
Marchers say they're here to protest against a bank they accuse of financing genocide. On the other,
honestly, if you live in London, get out. If you live in England, get out. If you're a Jew, I don't think it's safe there. Honestly, I mean, from what I can tell, especially I had a friend at Speaker's Corner who was a Messianic Jew, so he's a believer in Christ, but he was just telling people that he is a Jew who believes in Christ, and just the fact that he said he was a Jew, not the part about Christ, but Muslims then like surrounded him and asked him all these questions and started pushing him and said, do you support Israel? Do you support Israel? Like just over and over and over again. And it was insane. Like it was the movie was actually removed from YouTube for being too violent because he ended up getting pushed into one of those like I don't know. You've seen those fences in England where they're like thick, square, black little poles and they have little spikes on top. He got pushed over and he almost got stabbed in the gut by one of those spikes, and it was crazy. No one cares about this. What's going on over there?
Side of the street Israeli protesters who say they are apologists for terrorism, and in the middle, trying to keep the peace and navigate this toxic politics, are the police.
What the police are doing in these situations, in a public order environment like this, where you've got a protest and a counter-protest, is trying to find something that's proportionate, reasonable, fair to everybody. Letting everybody have the right to say their words and have their march, but stopping any confrontation or even coming together.
That's the first time they've ever done anything like that. Over the last 6 months, it's just been entirely let the Palestinian protesters do whatever the hell they want, while the Jewish people get run over and treated like crap and barely get to protest. And when they do, their protests are limited to a certain amount of streets and a certain amount of time, and it's ridiculous. And the reason why they say that to the Jewish people is because they know they're peaceful. They know they're quiet. They know they're willing to do whatever it takes to just get out there and make their voices heard. But the Palestinian people, they're like, no, we don't give a shit. We'll do it no matter what, and we'll be violent if you don't let us do what we want. And that's why they're afraid of the Palestinian protesters. And, that gets their job done. It's good for them, but it's also a horrible freaking thing to be. Like, why are you going around? Why are you that awful of a person that you can't even just be peaceful at your own protest when no one else is there? Like, when no one else is there, they're still screaming the same violent things. They're still agitated and horrible. 90% of these people don't even know what is going on. If you ask them, what was the last military action done by Israel in Gaza, they would have no clue. They don't follow the war. They follow TikTok videos. And that's a fact. All the kids from ages 15 to 25, 85% of their news is taken from TikTok. That is extremely dangerous. Ugh. So yeah, funding from Arab universities to Arab countries to U.S. universities raises questions. Almost always come with strings attached. Yeah, let me see. Yeah, Qatar was the largest source of funding, donating roughly. That's not right. This must have been just this last year or something. Oh, it is. Okay. Okay, this is just recently. So Qatar was the largest source of funding, donating roughly $5 billion, which was followed by $3 billion from Saudi Arabia. Let me see. Yeah. So we have pro-Hamas countries that are funding top universities fess up. I mean, it's crazy. Such funds may be recipients of universities engaging in highly questionable behavior with terrorist-friendly regimes. We know, for example, the Northwestern University has a campus in Doha, the capital of Qatar. Wow. Has received hundreds of millions in foreign donations. One of its instructors, Khaled Haroub, appeared on NPR's On Point show, gave credence to the demonstrably false conspiracy theories that Hamas did not kill any women or children, which they obviously did, in recent attacks in southern Israel. And NPR pulled that hour of programming that national distribution, saying today's episode of On Point did not meet our editorial standards. Wow. It's more than that. Additionally, Northwestern has an active internship with Al Jazeera, which is ridiculously demonstrably false with everything they put out. It's always biased. By the Emir of Qatar, before offloaded his shares to a shell company owned by a relative, Congress has noted that Al Jazeera is constantly on the wrong side of laws regulating the registration of foreign agents, is the most significant vectors of radicalization and terrorist propaganda anywhere. Yeah, they are the worst. People act like they're the most conservative, I guess you could say, or moderate, when it comes to Middle Eastern news. I mean, obviously the worst is Quds Media, and they're literally Palestinian media. They are the worst. They lie about, I'd say about 9 out of 10 things you see on Twitter is a complete lie or is a complete obfuscation of what actually is. And this is just something that they do. But Al Jazeera is seen as this more moderate, easygoing, they tell the truth more often. They're more willing to be critical of their own people, but it's BS, dude. It's complete BS. Like, there was a whole documentary they did about Israel and how Palestinians actually made Israel. And they said, oh, look, there was a Palestinian airway company that was started by Palestinians and a Palestinian railway company that was started by, or it was called Palestinian Airways and Palestinian Railways. But what they didn't actually tell you is, even though it was called Palestinian Airways and Palestinian Railways, it was actually started by Jews. Yeah, the massive Jewish immigration in the late 1800s and early 1900s led to massive growth in the economy during about 1910 to 1920, which led to a flood of immigrants coming from mainly Armenia, Iran, northern Syria, and even Turkey. And so they came down there, and this is actually why you see a lot of blonde Palestinians, is because that's where they came from, the areas of just south of the Caucasus Mountains, which a lot of people in that area, even Middle Eastern, they're still blonde. They're not Arab. And that's why you had an influx of immigration during that time, which is why you had a large population of Arabs or not Arabs, but Arab and Middle Eastern people start to build up. The Syrians were Arabs. And so once they started to build up in that area, it led to what people thought was, oh, more Arabs live here than Jews. But according all the way up until about 1905 to 1910, there were more Jews in the Holy Land than there were Arabs. And that goes back all the way, like for a long time, all the way until the Muslims controlled it. When the Muslims controlled it, it was different. But when the Ottoman Empire controlled it, the Holy Land and almost all the land surrounding it was almost vacant. For some reason, they just didn't take as much of a liking to that as the Muslim empire did for some reason. But yeah, so tuition of terror. Qatar money followed to U.S. universities, and now it's fueling violence. Since the 9/11 attacks, Qatar has become the largest foreign donor of American academia, which has not always bothered to reveal the source. A study by the Institute of Anti-Semitism Studies found a direct link between the amount of donations and the presence of pro-Palestinian groups. Yep, that's actually true. Stephen covered this. So is it Students for Justice for Palestine? I think it is. Students for Justice for Palestine. Like SJ, what is it? So yeah, Students for, so it's SFJP or something, like SFJP, something like that. And so they are funded by Palestine along with two other groups. One of them is the old and well-known PLO, and then let me see if it's on here. I don't know. There's another one. It's called like the Palestinian Student Group or something like that. Or Students for a Free Palestine. That's what it is. Yeah. So Students for a Free Palestine, and then this Palestinians or Students for Justice for Palestine. And those two groups, along with the PLO, are funded by Hamas and Qatar, and then are the ones organizing all of the protests. They're the ones who set up everything. They're the ones who make the posters and the signs. That's where everybody's getting these uniform signs from. Everybody has the same one. No one goes there, and it's just they're even paying activist groups, which you can actually rent out, which BLM did too. I'm not a big fan of Candace Owens right now, but her documentary on BLM was great, and she talked about how they rented out people that were located in California, and they would fly out to wherever they needed to go, and they would protest there violently even. And they're doing the same thing here. They're using protest activist groups that you pay and rent out to fill out their protests, so they have more people, which is why 90% of them don't know what they're talking about. I mean, even if they were there on their own volition, they still wouldn't know what they're talking about. I mean, you can see just asking college students, and they're like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what that means. I don't know where Gaza is. I don't know where the Mediterranean Sea is. I don't know where the Jordan River is. And it's like, then how are you even arguing for this? And they're like, well, because I still think it's wrong. And it's like, you don't get to say like something is wrong if you don't know anything about it. If you have no knowledge on the subject, maybe you shouldn't be talking about it. It's crazy. Yeah, so Georgetown alone got $750 million. Ivy League Medical School, the American Ivy League, sorry, what is it, hon? $1.8 billion. So Northwestern and Carnegie Mellon got 1.8 billion in total, and then Northwestern for journalism, the Northwestern School for Journalism got 600 million in 2007. I mean, this is crazy. It just goes on and on and on. It's so insane. Yeah, so here's one of the groups, SJP, Students for Justice in Palestine. Yeah. Yeah, and they're funded by the Qatar and other Persian Gulf countries. So it's insane. It says right here, yeah. Even Claudine Gay, the president from Harvard, who got fired because she wouldn't condemn saying that calling for the genocide of Jews was somehow against Harvard policies, which is insane. But yeah, she was actually one of the first people who got caught up in this like controversy and was asked about this. And turns out that she openly admitted that this had been going on for too long. She quote, for too long. And it's just insane to think that even she's known about this, but yet no one's being like, okay, so we know about this dangerous funding that's coming in from, corrupt terrorist countries, and yet we're just going to allow it in because, it helps us fund our schools. Why? We want money. And while they're letting that money in, they're losing the money from Jewish donors and American donors who don't support this crap. It's like you're willing to lose money from people in America, but you're willing to accept money from terrorist organizations. That's a dangerous precedent. That's a very dangerous precedent. And if we're not going to be talking about this openly and very, very consistently with how our policies on viewing foreign intervention in schools, foreign intervention into media, foreign intervention when it comes to our social media, these things need to be called out uniformly on all sides. And yet you won't see that. You see the left not wanting to address this. You see the right saying certain things on one side, and then other people are willing to call it out. This needs to be a uniformity issue. There should be no foreign intervention in anything. And it causes us to be more distracted, more divided, and it helps them win. Alrighty, guys. That's going to be it for today. Thank you for coming in. Conservative Confucius. Don't forget to go down there, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell. Don't forget to do that so you can get all the notifications to the next videos. Don't forget to come back for more, to go check out the old ones. Alrighty, guys. I'll catch you in the next one. You have a good one. Be safe.